You'll love Mindful Moments.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a deep dive for your mind, offering a refreshing perspective on everything from science and philosophy to history and art,
Wow.
all in under 20 minutes.
That's great.
Yeah?
So if you're ready to nurse your mind on the go, check out Mindful Moments via the link in the show notes. Trust me, you won't regret it. We always think of exploration as something, from the past, right? Like conquistadors and uncharted islands and all that. But what if I told you that the spirit of adventure is actually still alive and well, just hidden in plain sight?
Yeah. And what's really interesting, I think, is that exploration isn't only about, going out there and finding new places. It's more about pushing those boundaries and challenging assumptions and encountering the unexpected, even in places we think we know really well.
That's a great point. And that's actually where our deep dive takes us today. We're going way back to the 1950s and joining a young David Attenborough on some of his earliest expeditions, all of which he documented in his memoir, Adventures of a Young Naturalist.
Right through his really vivid firsthand accounts and some incredible behind-the-scenes photographs, we're going to retrace his journeys to Sierra Leone, Guyana, Indonesia, and Paraguay. And the point of all this is we're not just like literally following his footsteps. We're actually trying to understand what was driving him, what kind of challenges did he face, and how did these experiences really shape him into the legend that we know and love today.
Yeah, I love that. So picture this. It's 1954. Attenborough's been tasked with capturing animals for the London Zoo. His first mission, Sierra Leone, a place that was probably just as foreign to him then as maybe Mars is to us now.
Yeah, it's actually really fascinating to see how he put his team together. It was almost like on the fly. He ends up finding this cameraman, Charles Lagos, who had literally just come back from a completely different expedition, trying to find the abominable snowman in the Himalayas.
Wow. Talk about a unique resume. I wonder if any Yeti stories ever came up around the campfire.
Oh, I'm sure they did. But it really shows you Attenborough's willingness to embrace the unconventional. He wasn't out there looking for just some, regular crew. He needed people who were thirsty for the unknown.
Yeah. And of course, they also needed someone to wrangle all those animals once they were caught. And that's where Alf Woods comes in. He was a super seasoned head keeper from the London Zoo. Can you imagine setting off to Sierra Leone with this ragtag team? No internet, no GPS, just a compass and a whole lot of grit.
Right. I mean, talk about resourcefulness. That totally defined these early expeditions. But Sierra Leone, well, that was just the beginning. Let's move on to Guyana. That's where Attenborough faced a whole new set of challenges, starting with just navigating that incredibly diverse and often really unforgiving terrain.
Yeah. He wasn't exactly like trekking through Central Park. This was dense rainforest, vast savannas, crocodile-infested swamps. I mean, how do you even begin to plan a route through all that?
Well, that's where local knowledge comes in, and it becomes absolutely critical. Attenborough actually took the time to consult experts, people who were very familiar with the region, a district officer, a rancher, and even a doctor who had tons of experience in those really remote areas.
That's such a good point. It's a reminder that sometimes the best insights actually come from the people who know the land the best. It's not just about maps and compasses. It's about understanding all the nuances of the environment, all the hidden dangers, the unpredictable weather patterns.
Oh, absolutely. And those insights weren't just crucial for navigating the actual physical landscape. They were also important for understanding the cultural landscape, too. Remember, Attenborough wasn't just meeting different animals. He was meeting different ways of life, different belief systems, completely different customs.
And he never shied away from those encounters. In fact, he actively sought them out. He even talks about spending a night in a PMN's hut in Wailampu. He actually witnessed this really intense spiritual ceremony that involved chanting, tobacco juice, and calling upon spirits.
I know, it's really striking, right? This openness to experiencing something that was so far outside his own cultural framework. He could have easily stayed back and just observed. But instead, he chose to participate, to immerse himself in that moment, even if it probably felt a little strange or even uncomfortable.
Yeah, and that willingness to step outside his comfort zone led to some incredible encounters with wildlife, too. One that really stuck with me was his description of capturing a caiman. Now, he didn't use a tranquilizer gun or trap or anything like that. They used lassos.
Can you imagine? The adrenaline rush of standing just inches away from these powerful jaws, trusting only the strength of a rope and the skill of your team.
I mean, it takes a certain kind of courage to face risks like that. It's like a calculated courage that's balanced by a deep respect for the animal and, an understanding of its behavior.
And sometimes that courage was tested, not by some fearsome predator, but by a seemingly harmless herd of cattle. Attenborough actually recounts this tense standoff with a bunch of savanna cattle while they were trying to film spoonbills and egrets.
Who knew cows could be so dramatic?
It just shows you how unpredictable it is to work in the wild. You can plan, you can prepare, but ultimately you're really at the mercy of nature's whims.
So true. And that makes the role of unexpected allies even more valuable. Attenborough mentions this guy, Kiney McTurk, a lot. He was a local rancher who provided a ton of help throughout those Guyana expeditions.
Yeah, McTurk's presence really underscores a recurring theme in all of Attenborough's journeys, the importance of collaboration, whether it's relying on that local expertise, navigating cultural differences, or even just having someone to watch your back when you're facing down a caiman. Working together is often the key to success.
That's a great point. And speaking of collaborations, have you ever heard of that AI audiobook analysis channel, Mindful Moments, on YouTube?
Yeah.
They do an awesome job of breaking down complex ideas and highlighting key insights, which is kind of what we're doing here.
Oh, yeah, I've seen some of their videos. It's a fantastic resource for anyone who wants to dive deeper into all sorts of topics.
Totally. But back to our intrepid explorer. Attenborough's expeditions weren't just about, catching animals and checking them off a list.
Right.
He was driven by a much deeper desire to understand their behavior, to document their lives in a way that had never been done before.
And that meant really pushing the boundaries of filmmaking, experimenting with new techniques, and constantly adapting to the challenges of filming in remote and often very unpredictable environments.
Take, for example, his attempts to film howler monkeys. He describes all the difficulties of tracking them as they move through that dense rainforest canopy. The patience required to wait for just the right shot, and the sheer luck involved in capturing these fleeting moments on film.
It really reminds you that even with careful planning and the best preparation, sometimes you just need a little bit of serendipity on your side.
And speaking of serendipity, let's talk about one of the most memorable characters in Attenborough's book, Mr. King. He's introduced as this legendary animal collector, almost mythical in his abilities. But as the story unfolds, we see another side to him.
Yeah, Mr. King is a really fascinating study in contrasts. On one hand, he has this incredibly deep knowledge of the rainforest. He almost has an intuitive understanding of the creatures that live there. But on the other hand, he's really prone to boasting, exaggerating his exploits, and maybe even overlooking the dangers inherent in the work that he's doing.
It's almost as if Attenborough is subtly trying to challenge the idea of this lone explorer. That classic image of the rugged individual who goes out and conquers the wilderness all by themselves.
Oh, exactly. Because even the most experienced adventurers need help. They need guidance, and sometimes they even need a little bit of humility.
And sometimes that humility comes from unexpected places. One story that really struck me was Attenborough's account of a night he spent in a Guyanese village. He ends up participating in this ritual involving kesiri, which is that fermented drink you mentioned earlier.
Ah, Casseri. I hear it has a rather unique and not entirely pleasant taste.
To put it mildly. But the fact that Attenborough was willing to try it, to participate in this ritual that was so foreign to him, really says a lot about his respect for local customs and his desire to connect with the people he met on a much deeper level.
Yeah, it's a great reminder that true exploration isn't just about conquering new frontiers. It's about bridging those cultural divides, fostering understanding, recognizing the shared humanity that connects us all.
And sometimes those connections are forged through just shared laughter.
Wow.
Remember Attenborough's encounter with Cetus Kingston, the gold prospector? The guy who claimed he was thrown to the ground by an electric eel and was left dizzy for 3 days?
Oh, yeah. That's a classic. It's a perfect example of that blend of danger, humor, and tall tales that often comes with life on the edge of the unknown.
It makes you wonder how much of Kingston's story was true and how much was embellishment. But either way, it's a reminder that even in some of the most challenging circumstances, there's always room for a little bit of lightheartedness.
Definitely. And speaking of challenging circumstances, let's shift our focus to Attenborough's search for the giant armadillo in Paraguay. This expedition takes him deep into the Chaco region, a landscape that's just as unforgiving as it is fascinating.
He describes the Chaco as hungry country. And it's clear that he's not just talking about the lack of food, He's talking about a land that demands respect. A land that truly tests the limits of human endurance.
And in the middle of that scorching heat, thorny undergrowth, and those relentless insect hordes, Attenborough stays focused on his goal: to find that elusive giant armadillo. It's a creature that almost seems to exist somewhere between myth and reality.
Yeah, really is. It's like the giant armadillo represents that ultimate prize for a naturalist, A creature so rare and so elusive that just catching a glimpse of it would be a huge accomplishment.
Totally. And the pursuit of that prize leads to some really memorable moments. Remember that whole fiasco with the boat? The Castle.
Oh yeah, the castle.
They had this grand plan to explore the waterways of Paraguay, in style and comfort.
Yeah, but it sounds like comfort might have been a relative term when you're talking about a rickety old riverboat navigating the unpredictable currents of the Paraguay River.
Right. And those unpredictable currents weren't the only issue. The castle itself was a mess. Mechanical issues, leaky cabins, and the crew seemed more interested in drinking mate than actually, steering the boat. It's a classic case of even the best laid plans going totally awry, especially when you're dealing with nature and human error.
Oh, for sure. So they eventually had to just abandon their luxurious riverboat and venture further into the Chaco by land. They relied on ox carts, horses, even the kindness of local ranchers.
It really shows you Attenborough's adaptability. He didn't let that setback, completely derail the expedition. He just adjusted his approach, embraced the unexpected, and kept moving forward.
And that often meant enduring some serious discomfort. He describes one night he spent in a leaky hut during a thunderstorm. I mean, his hammock was practically submerged in a puddle.
It's moments like that where we really see Attenborough's resilience. He doesn't try to romanticize those hardships, but he also doesn't let them affect his enthusiasm or his determination.
It's like he views these challenges as just part of the experience, a necessary test of his commitment to understanding the natural world.
And that commitment is constantly being challenged by the sheer scale and complexity of the Chaco. The search for this giant armadillo becomes like searching for a needle in a haystack. Every day brings a new obstacle or another false lead.
It's true, they follow these faint tracks that just disappear into the undergrowth. They dig up these promising burrows that turn out to be empty, and they're constantly battling this oppressive heat that just seems to drain their energy with every step.
And Attenborough doesn't shy away from describing the physical and emotional toll of this pursuit. There are definitely moments of frustration, disappointment, even a sense of futility as they come up empty-handed over and over again.
But he never gives up. He just keeps pushing forward, driven by this insatiable curiosity and the belief that this giant armadillo is out there somewhere just waiting to be discovered.
It's a real testament to the power of scientific inquiry, that unshakable belief that even the most well-hidden secrets can be revealed with enough patience, perseverance, and, of course, a little bit of luck.
And speaking of luck, it seems like Attenborough's luck changes when their guide Comelli stumbles upon a set of fresh tracks. They lead to a burrow unlike any they've seen before.
The way he describes that burrow is amazing, almost mythical. This huge entrance, deep claw marks, all the signs point to a tattoo carreta, as the locals call it, finally making an appearance.
Ooh, I can just feel the tension building as they approach that burrow. Cameras are ready, hearts are pounding with anticipation. This is it, the moment they've been waiting for.
But what happens next is so unexpected and actually quite profound. Instead of this triumphant capture, Attenborough and his team find an empty burrow. The giant armadillo has moved on.
Oh, wow. After all that effort, all that anticipation, it seems almost cruel that their quest ends not with a bang, but with a whimper.
But what's really remarkable is how Attenborough reframes this. He doesn't focus on the disappointment. Instead, he chooses to reflect on the lessons he learned, the knowledge they gained, and those unforgettable experiences he shared with his team.
You're right. It's like a reminder that sometimes the journey itself is the reward, even if that ultimate destination remains elusive. That's a powerful message, especially in a world that's so obsessed with instant gratification and guaranteed outcomes.
Definitely. Attenborough's story encourages us to really embrace the unknown, to find joy in the pursuit, to recognize that the most valuable discoveries are often the ones we make about ourselves along the way.
You know, it's really interesting how he takes what could have been like a total defeat and turns it into this moment of reflection. He didn't find the armadillo, but he found something else, a deeper understanding of what exploration really is.
Yeah, and that's a super important insight, right? Exploration isn't always about getting to a specific place or achieving some predetermined goal. It's really about the journey itself, the challenges you overcome, those unexpected things you encounter, and the knowledge you gain along the way.
That's so true. And sometimes that most valuable knowledge comes from people who have been living in and learning from that environment for generations. Throughout the book, Attenborough really stresses the importance of relying on those local guides, trackers, and interpreters.
Oh, absolutely. Those folks hold a wealth of knowledge that's often just overlooked or dismissed by outsiders. They have this deep understanding of the landscape, how the animals behave, and the cultural traditions that have shaped their relationship with nature.
It's true. And Attenborough's willingness to listen and learn from them really shows his humility. His recognition that true understanding requires collaboration and respect for those different perspectives.
Right. And it's through these collaborations that he was able to get those amazing shots on film.
Yeah.
Like, think about his encounter with the Komodo dragon in Indonesia, a creature that's captured our imaginations for centuries. And Attenborough doesn't disappoint.
No, he doesn't. He describes the Komodo dragon with this mix of awe and respect, really highlighting its size, its power, and those crazy hunting strategies. But he also talks about the challenges of filming such a powerful creature.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they had to jump through all these bureaucratic hoops to even get to Komodo Island, deal with logistical nightmares just to get their equipment there, and be super cautious when approaching those huge predators.
But all that effort was so worth it. Attenborough's footage of the Komodo dragon helped to, take away some of the mystery. It showed its behavior in a way that had never been seen before.
Totally. And it's a good reminder that exploration isn't just about personal discovery. It's also about sharing those discoveries with the world, inspiring other people to appreciate the wonders of nature and understand why it's so important to protect them.
And that sense of responsibility towards the natural world is really at the heart of Attenborough's whole approach. He's not just a passive observer, he's an advocate. He really understands the impact that humans have on the environment, and he uses his platform to raise awareness about the need for conservation.
Yeah, even in these early expeditions, you can see the beginnings of his later work as a conservationist. He's always talking about responsible animal collection and making sure that the creatures he was bringing back to the London Zoo were well taken care of.
Right. And he also expresses concern about habitat destruction and the impact that humans are having on wildlife populations.
Exactly. It's a reminder that exploration isn't just about adventure and discovery. It's also about responsibility and taking care of our planet.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into David Attenborough's Adventures of a Young Naturalist, I think we're all left with a huge sense of inspiration. His stories show us that the spirit of exploration is still alive and well, and that it can look so many different ways. It could be an actual trip to a far-off place, or a quest for knowledge, or even just a willingness to get out of our comfort zones and embrace the unknown.
And we may not all get to follow in Attenborough's footsteps literally, but we can all try to cultivate that curiosity, that thirst for knowledge, and that respect for nature that guided him.
I love that. So what will your next adventure be? What uncharted territories are calling out to you? Remember, exploration isn't just about what you find, it's about who you become along the way.
And who knows, maybe your journey will lead you to something truly amazing, just like it did for a young David Attenborough.
To learn more about these incredible adventures, be sure to check out the AI audiobook analysis channel Mindful Moments on YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe, share, and you can even buy Attenborough's book through the link we've provided. Until next time, keep exploring.